Hello, Internet. I'm Chrissy. Today I will be sharing a story that makes me upset to this day. This story was years ago, way back in 2010, 2011. So like a decade ago, and remembering this even still upsets me. It makes me angry and sad, and it's a lot. And I hate that I haven't been able to let go of that hurt yet. Now, before we get into everything, content warning. This story is going to cover topics about bullying, sexual harassment, suicide, and a few other things. So please, if any of these things bother you, please skip this video and go watch some of my more wholesome content. Now, if you watched my video about my toy cat Bronco, you'll know that this story takes place around the same time, if not a little after I lost him. So, I was at Marietta High School. I was in the 10th grade. So, if you didn't watch the story time about Bronco, let me lay down some groundwork for you. I was living with my mom and my second brother in a 2-story apartment that last I heard was condemned. My mom was unemployed and not the best at money management. Most of the time, we had no power in the apartment. I only got to eat once a day, and it was whatever my brother brought home from his fast food job. Imagine only eating once a day and that only thing being a greasy dollar menu Checkers sandwich. And that is something I think many people don't understand about being in poverty or being homeless. Life is a struggle. Bleh. But at this time, I was 100 to 115 pounds. My stomach curved inward, which really upset my sister when I would go visit her at her place every other weekend. So yeah, I had an unhealthy relationship with food, and I kind of still do to this day. I currently eat breakfast because I have to take all of my medicines in the morning. So I tend to make oatmeal or a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and put all my medicine in there since I have trouble swallowing pills. And if you have to chew pills, might as well cover that taste with oatmeal or peanut butter. Just a thing. But back in 2010, I was at Marietta High School, and I was in history class. I don't remember the history teacher's name, but his class was a cakewalk. It was a legit cakewalk. He gave us all study guides, packets to fill out using the textbook during class. We didn't got to use that study guide packet on the test. The class was basically a study hall and super easy. My friend, Berlin, sat behind me. She's one of the few people I remember because we talked about books often. I remember her being a huge fan of Phantom of the Opera. So shout out to my friend Berlin. I might have her name wrong, but I'm not sure. I am bad with names. I honestly doubt she remembers me, but I still remember her, and I greatly appreciate the friendship we had, even though it was so brief. Which is saying something since I don't remember people's faces and names very well. Plus, it takes a while before I feel bonded with someone. Now, I don't remember what day of the week it was, but I was at my desk when this girl came in. I don't recall her name or much about her, but let me take another tangent to tell you what I can remember. So, let's call her Bridget, since I can't recall her name and she was a bitch and caused me a lot of trust issues. I actually still have trust issues with people who portray the kind of personality trait she had. So Bridget sat to my right in the front row next to the door. She talked big and was trying to display herself as kind of a badass. She had a stick-like body. I do recall her hitting on me at one point before the incident with the chips. She leaned over and put her hand in my seat trying to touch my butt. It made me very uncomfortable and I wasn't sure what to do. Luckily, Berlin stood up for me and made her stop. So one day, I was sitting at my desk because I was an always on time kind of kid. So Bridget, and if I recall correctly, 2 or 3 of her friends came in and gave me a small bag of Lay's classic chips. She said, "These are for you." I was at first confused, but said thank you. Now, as I stated before, I was only eating once per day, so food and the act of giving me food makes me very happy. You could probably buy my love with food. It's also why I don't share food unless I love you. So, heads up. feed me and you will have my love and admiration. It's why my boyfriend doesn't want me to be friends with any chefs. He is afraid. He shouldn't be, but I understand why. So I put the bag of chips in my bag. Since you can't eat during class, I decided I would eat them once I got home. Now, if you read the title of this video, you know that this isn't going to end well. So several times during the class, Bridget and her friends kept trying to get me to eat the chips. I brushed them off, saying later. Now, everyone knew I was having home problems since I didn't hide it, and I was very upfront when asked why I never got lunch at school by saying I don't have any money. And I honestly wore the exact same clothes for weeks on end. I only really changed clothes when I went to my sister's to take a hot shower, and I only saw her like every other weekend or so. And so, yeah. All the adults in my family complained that I didn't bathe every day, one of them going, "Don't you want people to like you?" Which, when talking to someone who has undiagnosed depression, who is very super antisocial, is like the worst reason to use. Like, if you think about it, like, I still don't like people, I don't trust people, my friend group is really small, why the fuck are you trying to, like, use being liked? But now that, like, I'm older, I realize, oh, this is the source of all your problems, even though you're always causing drama. You want to be liked by everyone and adored, and that's not my fucking goal. I just want to be left the fuck alone most of the time. So, yeah. Almost everyone who knew me knew that I didn't have the luxury of, like, 3 meals a day, and that there were issues at home. I do recall hearing Bridget and her friends giggling and talking amongst each other during class that day. I, however, being naive and oblivious, just thought they were laughing about something else. The whole class and trip home, I was super thankful and was trying to think about what I could say, what I could do to say thank you to Bridget. Like, should I draw her a picture, make her a thank you card? I was happy and hopeful when I arrived home, something I seldom was as I walked through the door into that apartment. My mom was asleep on the couch as I walked up to my room. There was no power in the apartment at the time. I sat in the pallet of the blue blanket on the floor. I had no bed in my room. Like, that's another thing. Like, I didn't have a bed for, like, a good long minute, and everyone wonders why I sleep on the couch, or the floor, or just in blankets on the floor. It's because I didn't have a bed for a very, very long time. And, like, even, like, I didn't even have a bed at my dad's house. Like, I had a bed at my dad's house for a brief period, but then I wasn't visiting, and he gave my room to Nick. So I didn't want to visit him more than I really had to, because every time I had to visit him, I had to sleep on a fucking couch anyway. And her friends would wake me up being loud as shit in the living room, because that's where I had to sleep. So, yeah. I have some issues. So, yeah. But, back to the story. I sat in my pallet of my blue blanket on my floor, because that was pretty much my bed. I pulled the bag of Lay's classic chips out of my book bag, excited to have, like, a meal before my brother got off work. Like, I was so excited, so happy, elated, just like a child on Christmas. Well, I opened the bag, only to realize that the bag had been stapled shut. The bag contained no chips, just clippings of paper. Luckily, nothing was written on those clippings, but me, I was hurt, devastated, crestfallen. Like, I sat there staring into this bag of crumpled hopes for several minutes as the tears began to form in my eyes. I had often been called, like, a crybaby as a kid, so over the years I had kind of, like, stopped crying, and I still don't cry as often as, like, I should. But this trip incident, it broke me. I hid the bag so my mom wouldn't find it and just curled up in my blanket and silently cried. I don't recall leaving the house or eating that day. I probably went to sleep crying that day, honestly. I do remember Marietta High School had a box that students could put letters in to go to the counselor or whatever. It was across the library where I spent my lunch. I had written a letter about this chip incident and other stuff. I was very unstable mentally, and it was basically a suicide note. I stood in front of this box with my letter in hand for several minutes before going. They can't make this better. It won't matter. And just walking away. I sat in the library until my next class reading manga, and I pretty much told no one about it. Not my mom, not my sister, not my teachers, not my friend Berlin. I think the first time I opened up about it was to my boyfriend during like a car ride a few years ago. For years, every time I think back on this chip incident, it's like reopening the wound of pain from that day. I am happy to say that while writing the script, it does still hurt, but not as much as like it used to. And even like while verbally reading through the script, it's still the same. Like, it still hurts and it still bothers me, but it's not as much to like make me not to like it doesn't hurt as much to make me cry again thinking about it. It's just one of those things that still bothers me. And I do have funny after story karma though. So it was towards the end of the school year. We had been evicted from that apartment and we were currently living in the car. I was waiting for my mom to pick me up in said car inside the school by the big entrance doors. And I looked up from my sketchbook because I'm always scribbling in a sketchbook or writing something. And who do I see but Bridget? Not only do I see Bridget, I see her being escorted by a police officer with her hands cuffed behind her back. And I watched with schadenfreude as this officer put Bridget in the back of their car and took her away. I doubt Bridget noticed me watching or even remembered me, but I did. Even if now I don't recall her name or really her face, I still remember the chip incident and probably almost always will. So yeah, the fact that I got to watch her be escorted by a police officer in handcuffs was great schadenfreude for me. Now, if you stayed with me for all of this, thank you. So the story is like 5 pages long in my little mermaid notebook, and it's 3 pages long typed up in Google Docs. So that tells you something. So I hope you enjoyed hearing the story and the art that was being made during this video. Also, I just noticed that the script took like 10 whole days to write. So please like, subscribe, comment if you enjoyed this video after all. That helps with the algorithm that I have to feed because the algorithm gods need food. Now, while I am not sure if anyone wants to share their story, but remember that if it seems bad, there's always a better, brighter future. Like, it's gonna take a while to get there, and it's gonna hurt getting there, but it does get better. Like, I've gone from being homeless, living in a car, not having access to like water or anything, to like now I live in a trailer with my boyfriend, who I am actually planning on proposing to in 2022, and my tuxedo cat Nova. So yeah, to me that's a huge improvement, even if it like doesn't seem that way to others. So yeah, remember that it does get better, it does get brighter, and karma will eventually come to these bullies, rather like we induce it or what. So yeah, bye bye.